with the recent information having to reveal the conclusion of not only the Universe Survival arc, but also Dragon Ball Super as a whole come March 2018, many fans have been questioning the inevitable fate of Dragon Ball as we move forward after March of 2018, but the question lingers as to what exactly is going to be the fate of Dragon Ball as we move away from Dragon Ball Super episode 131 in March. And on this video, we're going to be breaking down the recent information provided to tell you exactly what's going to be going on, so hold on to your seatbelts and grab onto your Dragon Balls, because we're going to be talking about the conclusion and the finale of Dragon Ball Super next. If you guys like the Dragon Ball content that I provide on this channel, then make sure you guys punch that subscribe button with notifications enabled to be the first to receive all the latest in Dragon Ball content and be a part of the Dragon Ball squad. And also don't forget to follow me on these social media platforms, Twitter, Instagram, and Facebook, to stay connected with me at all times. Hashtag Dragon Ball Squad. Thank you so very much for your support. Now let's begin. As we enter 2018, to everybody's surprise, recent information had revealed that Dragon Ball Super will be officially ending off the series come March 25th, 2018, concluding its series with episode 131, which is assumingly going to be the conclusion and the finale of the Universe Survival arc, concluding the battle between Universe 11 and Universe 7, as Dragon Ball Super's current time slot that normally runs in Japan will be taken over by a brand new anime called Kitaro starting April 1st, and no, this is not an April Fool's joke. And with the recent information having to be provided by Herms98 on Twitter, the 11th volume of the Japanese DVD and Blu-ray release has included episodes 121 to 133, officially changing the 133 slot to episode 131 instead, which in turn means that they were going to have an additional 2 episodes following 131, but instead cut 2 extra episodes in between, as Dragon Ball Super will go on holiday twice in the next 2 months, following the release of Dragon Ball Super episode 131 on March 25th, 2018. Now, having to gather the following information, there is no confirmation on a return date for Dragon Ball Super as of this recording. Instead, we do have the upcoming movie to look forward to in December that involves the origin of the Saiyans, which is going to be very important for the growth of Dragon Ball as we near the end of the year. So joining me here today to talk about this is Dragon Ball YouTuber EmoshIsLive. Now, Emosh, with all of this information having to be made public, it really caught the attention of so many people that Super is now going to finish off the long-awaited story that's been built ever since 2017 with the Universe Survival arc, and now coming to the conclusion that everything's going to be over in just a few episodes. What I wanted to know from you is, how do you feel about this personally as a fan, having to look at everything that's transpiring with Kitaro having to take over with the time slot, having to take into consideration all the information that was released? How do you feel about this personally? Do you believe that Dragon Ball needed this long break, this long overdue hiatus for it to rejuvenate as a franchise? Because the product itself is arguable in the idea that many people were saying that perhaps maybe Dragon Ball has run its course, all of the ideas have been done already, and there are a lot more questions than we have answers going into Super. But essentially, what are your overall thoughts on this? And in case anyone out there is wondering if the entirety of the Dragon Ball franchise is going to be over, it's not. We're still going to be getting Dragon Ball content for Dragon Ball FighterZ, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, Dragon Ball Heroes. We're going to be getting content, perhaps maybe something similar to the Daizenshu for Dragon Ball Super, official power scale guides, etc, etc. I mean, content for Dragon Ball isn't going to end. Merchandise will continue, DLC content will continue. We're going to be getting a brand new movie. So what's your take on Dragon Ball having to wrap everything off and finish off in March, essentially March 25th, with its final episode? And do you believe that it's long needed for Dragon Ball to do this? Or do you believe that it's going to be a detriment to Dragon Ball just with everything having to finish off so soon and with everything having to feel rushed now that we're entering Dragon Ball Super episode 124, 125, and just in about a few episodes we're going to see the conclusion of this long-awaited battle between Goku and Jiren and Universe 11 and Universe 7. So what's your initial take on Dragon Ball having to finish up in March?
It's the end of the series until further notice. That's probably the most proper way to take in this information right now.
Right.
So until further notice, that's it. After episode 131, that's it. No more Dragon Ball Super. Now, I understand what people would want to say it's a hiatus. I guess you could probably call it that, but then they would have to be like a predetermined amount of time. They might say, well, we might be expecting to come back somewhere in the fall, and basically that's when you could expect it. It's on a hiatus until the fall, right? They don't have to give you an exact date. They could just say around this time, and we'll keep in touch. We'll we'll let you guys know what happens after that. But right now there's no actual talk about anything related to Dragon Ball Super after the Tournament of Power. So it's at least, for quite some time now, people have been talking about, well, what's next after the Tournament of Power, right? And now we know we're getting another show. Hopefully that show will be something, worth considering. I imagine it's going to be hopefully something that's enjoyable. Will it take the place of Dragon Ball Super? Yeah, it's taking its time slot, but will it actually take the place amongst fans? Hell no, not in any way, shape, or form.
Right.
But I do think that as far as how I feel about it, I would say it's kind of unexpected. It's always hard to devote yourself every weekend or every week, especially for a content creator, for example.
Yeah.
Or if you're just a diehard fan, it's hard to just accept and say, wow, the series that I look forward to watching every weekend is now it's going to be coming to a halt for X amount of time, right? So, but ultimately, like, long story short, to wrap up my answer, I would say that it kind of reminds me of the whole Battle of Gods thing, where the Battle of Gods movie came out and we didn't really know if there was going to be an actual series, and because Battle of Gods did so well, in conjunction with Rival of F, so on and so forth, we actually got the series. So they could be saving this just to develop this new Kitaro anime, for example, and then on top of that, working on the new movie that's expected to air in December of 2018.
Yep.
And then after that, depending how the movie does, maybe they might revisit and say, okay, well, this movie did well, let's see what's left for Dragon Ball Super going forward, if they're still going to call it Dragon Ball Super, if it's going to come back under a different name. So they might be testing the waters to see how the movie does, if anything, to really focus and push people towards the movie. And if you think about it, marketing wise, it's questionable, but it's somewhat genius if you think about it.
Right.
Because think about how well Battle of the Gods did.
Oh, it did,
right?
Yeah.
It blew up, like, a lot of people, like, it just blew up for so many people.
Yeah.
And to cut Dragon Ball Super short now, like, literally out of the blue, right? Because it does feel that way. And then to have it to go on, like, months and months with no content whatsoever, and the only thing you have left to look forward to outside of the manga, outside of the video games, is that one movie that was announced just prior to Dragon Ball Super ending, right? Everybody's gonna go watch that stuff, especially since it's been stated that Akira Toriyama is pulling out all the stops for this film. He wants to go balls to the wall for this film.
Yeah.
People are going to flood that movie because of the demand that it's creating right now, especially that Dragon Ball Super, as of today, has no further plans as far as when it's going to be broadcasted again. So I would say it's ending until further notice. That's probably the most logical way to look forward to approach this situation, only so that way it doesn't really necessarily keep your hopes up. Right now, the only thing you have left is the manga. It's up to you guys if you like the games, for example.
The dub as well,
Xenoverse.
yeah. There's
the dub,
a lot
the
more,
dub
yeah.
is, I think the dub is going into the Goku Black arc and stuff like that now in Future Trunks. So like I said, I'm not really a fan of the dub because I've already seen, like, the Japanese one, so there's no point. There's no reason for me to watch the dub. But now I may have to reconsider it. Now I'm grateful that the manga is, and I've been praising the manga for the past couple of months now, for the past few chapters especially. So the manga, you guys can look forward to that. If you guys are into the games, for example, Dragon Ball FighterZ, maybe even fan-made mangas. Like I said, there's still things that people can look forward to.
Absolutely.
But I definitely understand why people are, like, kind of having, like, a little panic attack over this, because it didn't really feel like it was, planned. It legitimately feels like it's rushed.
And to Super's credit, there were lots of inconsistencies. There were lots of things that were going on in Super that kind of kept it away from the public eye in terms of people liking it, disliking it, because I mean, people can have their own opinions on the show. I just feel like it was very unexpected, because I don't think anyone really thought that they were gonna just end it after episode 131. But the thing about this is, I mean, the franchise isn't ending. Yeah. See, that's the confusion. A lot of people are assuming that there's going to be no more Dragon Ball after episode 131, and that's false information. We have the movie, as you just said, and depending on whether or not they want to continue with a brand new name, or if they want to bring back Super entirely next year, that's up to them to decide. But right now, they're pretty much refocusing on another anime. We have Mosako, as I stated earlier. Mosako is going to be voicing, some characters in Kitaro, the upcoming anime, and there's a lot going into that as well. But in terms of content from the main continuity from the show itself, yeah, I mean, even though that's going to take a slight pause, It all varies on the ending. It all, you know, boils down to how they're going to end this. If they're going to end it with Goku winning, if they're going to end it with Jiren winning, if they're going to end it with no winner, if they're going to end it with the ending of Z, going into the ending of Z where, you know, Goku meets Oob. It's just very unique as to what they're going to do. But what I wanted to also ask you is, where do you see Dragon Ball in terms of the upcoming movie and in terms of placement as well? Like, do you see the movie having to garner any sort of like major attention to where it can bring back Dragon Ball during that time? Because as of right now, the only information that we have about the movie is that it's dropping in December and it's going to be covering the origin of the Saiyans. Now, in case you guys don't know, in March we're going to get the full exclusive details as to what this movie is going to be about, the story, the plot, the characters, etc. So as we go into this, you know, upcoming movie, Toriyama is putting, you know, all of his eggs in one basket. He's looking to make a phenomenal film, and I'm pretty certain that this movie is going to be very phenomenal, depending on, you know, where it's going to take place, if it's going to take place in the past, in the present, in the future, post-Super, after Super, during Super. What I wanted to ask you is, what are your thoughts on this movie? Do you feel like if this movie is a success, they're going to continue just making movies alone, or are they going to bring back the series in the form of like a show again? And if they do, let's say for example, if they do bring back Dragon Ball once again on television, do you believe it's going to be Dragon Ball Super, or do you believe they're going to switch the name around, maybe call it something else, have it take place during a different timeline? Because again, everything boils down to the ending of the Tournament of Power arc. So where do you see Dragon Ball's placement with the film? And if the film is a success, do you see them bringing back the show, or do you see them strictly making movies as they did with Battle of Gods and Resurrection of F before they jump into another series? What do you think?
All right, so first of all, the whole thing with the ending of the Tournament of Power, we know that the last episode now is episode 131.
Yep.
And roughly around 129 to 130 is like roughly about the final minute of the Tournament of Power.
Right.
Which means that you legitimately only have about another episode left, and then that's it. So that right off the bat tells you that, okay, well, that episode might be used for the wish, and for going back to Earth, for visiting the family, for Beerus like congratulating everybody. Like there's not that much you can fill in 22 minutes of an episode, because we've seen this time and time again. The anime kind of has a hard time, you know, mixing in and really filling episodes in with a lot of content that really solidifies something as saying, okay, well, that was enough for one episode. No, they tend to drag it on to the next. But now that we know that episode 131 is the last episode, it's legitimately, at least this point in time, until we know for sure, it feels rushed. And with that, you have to look at all the information that we got a little while ago. For example, when they had interviews talking about how they were planning to, you know, to pick up from the end of Dragon Ball Z. Well, now we're not getting that. See, a lot of the things that we found out over the course of like the summer coming into the winter and stuff like that, basically over this year, over 2017.
Yeah.
It's some of the stuff is not happening now. So you kind of have to ask yourself, well, what happened? Look at some other events that took place. The voice actor of Bulma, Hiromi Suru, she passed away not too long ago, right? And you know, that's another maybe that's another thing that they're trying to consider. Maybe they want to, you know, regroup and recap and really sit down and think, well, let's say, you know, our staff is kind of old, or our cast is kind of old,
where do we go from here?
Where do we go from here? God forbid something ever happens. You know, there's a lot of things to consider right now, especially with the new anime. But with the new anime aside, it's never going to take place of the one thing that your company is primarily known for. You see what I'm saying? So nothing is going to take Dragon Ball's place, and that's set in stone. I'm pretty sure that these guys are smart enough to know that. But in conjunction with what I mentioned before, as far as like the whole marketing tactic for like this whole Legend movie, look at the information that we got once again. We found out in December that there was a movie coming out next year of December.
Yeah.
Right? And then just before the movie announcement, we got information about Yamoshi, right? And then after Yamoshi, we got the movie announcement. And now after the movie announcement, we're getting the end of the Tournament of Power is ironically the end of Dragon Ball Super. Right. And then we're just jumping into this new anime. So as far as the movie, it's about the origin of the Saiyans, right? And the origins of Goku's strength. Now, what this means is that it's in conjunction to Dragon Ball Super, okay? And the origin of the god, like the god form and stuff like that. I don't know if they're going to mention Ultra Instinct. I don't think we're going to see that, because that's explicitly the state of the gods. But when they reference the origin of Goku's strength, right off the bat, and in conjunction to the fact that we got information about Yamoshi, I imagine it has something to do with that. And also in conjunction with the whole, like, the legend that Shenron speaks about in the Battle of Gods arc. Not the movie, but the actual arc, for example. Or maybe they might use the movie concept, because in the movie, they talk about this alleged Saiyan who became a Super Saiyan God, but in the anime he didn't become a Super Saiyan God. You see what I'm saying? Like there's a little bit of a difference there. So it more or less has to do with that. And then they're gonna give us like this whole background with Goku. I don't think we're gonna see Bardock or anything like that, but I do believe that they're going to go like really back to the roots, like before Planet Vegeta kind of stuff, like way before that, with Yamoshi, with the
so you think that it's going to predate going back, right?
Yeah. Okay. It's the origin. The origin of the Saiyans is literally before Vegeta, before all of that. So that's how far it has to go. It's going to explain the whole, the whole Legends concept. And I think with this, Akira is free to do whatever he wants as he pleases with this movie. And it kind of makes sense when you think about it. Okay, well, let's focus everybody's attention toward this movie. Let's scrap the actual series. People's attention will be, without a doubt, because they're diehard fans, they're going to be focused on this movie. On top of that, look, think about it. You have Kamehacon coming in May, which is after Dragon Ball Super ends.
Yeah.
So the first Kamehacon, the first actual Dragon Ball convention in the States. So we're not going to go there without nothing to talk about. You see what I'm saying? So there's that. Then there's a lot of stuff happening, and I feel like everything is set in stone. It feels like, if you think about it, it was planned, but from our perspective, they just didn't really do or make enough of an effort, at least to tell us what's going on.
A few people actually knew ahead, like some of the producers and animators. So, they already had a little bit of a wind as to what's happening. So it only makes sense. And plus, remember this, the anime has been going on since July of 2015. I'm not discrediting the way their worth ethic is, because some people argue and saying, well, how come Super can't continue? Look at One Piece. They're going into episode 853. And so people make that argument, but then again, you really can't compare an anime like One Piece to Dragon Ball and expect them to keep up with the same pace, because, again, a different time. And I don't think that One Piece ever had a replacement for time slots, or had its, lead voice actors and actresses go on to do something else as well. So I'm not entirely sure on that, but people are like up in arms because I understand their passion for Dragon Ball. You're a Dragon Ball fan. I'm a Dragon Ball fan. Everyone watching this right now is a Dragon Ball fan. We all love Dragon Ball to different respects. Some people go balls to the wall with it. Some people are casuals. But in the end, going into 2019, and it's pretty crazy to even think about that because we just started 2018. Going into 2019, do you see there being any development for Dragon Ball in terms of a show, or do you think that they're solely gonna, stick by with Dragon Ball Heroes, Dragon Ball Xenoverse, possibly another Xenoverse game, Dragon Ball Fighters, more or less keeping it in that respect as opposed to creating a new show? Or do you think that in some way, shape, or form, if this movie alone does good, we're gonna see the resurgence of Dragon Ball in a different format per se? Maybe after the events of Goku and Oob, maybe, whatever happens after during the ending of this, like, do you see it, having to make a resurgence, or do you think that this is it, and for the coming years, we're not gonna get anything at all except for possibly movies and video game content?
I would say the idea of them trying to depict to us what the origin of Goku's strength and the Saiyan race is, has a lot to do with what their future plans will be for the future of this series if they plan to rebroadcast it. I don't see them picking up exactly from where they left off. I do see them skipping a little bit, but I feel like the only reason at this point in time why I would say they will definitely revisit the series is because they are not done telling Goku and Vegeta's story yet. They're far from over. And that movie, doesn't matter what you portray in it, that movie will never be able to portray the ending of what Goku and Vegeta's alleged or theoretical story could have been if they had continued the series going forward. And if they want to focus our attention to depict what this, the origin of Goku's strength is and the origin of the Saiyan race is, that throwing us into 2019 with another re-announcement of Dragon Ball Super or whatever they're going to call it, will allow us to walk into the show with an understanding as to what the hell is going on, because there's been a lot of instances in Dragon Ball Super where their portrayal of how they depict information, of how they portray information as to what the heck is happening, has been abysmal. And like I said, there's a lot of reasons why you can criticize Super, but there's also very little reason as to why you can criticize Super. And one of the reasons that you can criticize Super is their lack of giving you information for the series, or at least for the events that are taking place within the series. Super Saiyan God, we just recently got information about the legend of Yamoshi. Just recently. We just found out that Vegeta wasn't planned. He was there for fan service. We never really found out directly what Super Saiyan Rage is, like where that concept came from, or, like there's a lot of instances, for example, why we never really saw more from Beerus. Like why was he such an alpha male? Why was he such a dominant figure just for the introduction of a god tier character that you later on retconned in Revival of F anyway, and then made feel subpar for like the next 100+ episodes anyway.
You're right,
So I'm saying, there's a lot of things you can tell that they really didn't necessarily plan, and because they devoted so much time and effort to it already, they felt like, okay, well, let's just give everybody one big hoorah, a multiversal tournament. There's nothing that's bigger than this, and then we'll retrace our steps. We'll drop this lore in the Mecha Book of Legends with the Emoshi, and then we'll talk about this movie. We'll give them the word of a movie a year in advance, a whole year. You see what I'm saying? We found out in December that there's going to be a movie coming out in a year later of December. That's a lot of time. So a lot of things are happening. And I would wager that I don't really care about the games because to me, this universe sucks. Fighters, it's its own category, but I wouldn't really use that as a method to push Dragon Ball, like the actual franchise. I think nothing pushes the franchise more than the actual series itself. Which is more of a reason why this movie should be canon in some way, shape, or form. Does it have to be 100%? No, but if Akira is going this hard and is really focusing and redirecting our attention to this movie, it 100% has to be canon. So that way, if they do bring it back in 2019, the series, we have an understanding as to what Super Saiyan God is, what Goku's trying to achieve, where the Saiyans came from, because even today, we still don't know everything there is to know about them. And Dragon Ball throughout its franchise is years old, okay? Yeah. So now this is their chance to really get everything out of the way, start from scratch, and hopefully do it better than they did, like they started, for example, the Battle of Gods arc going into ROF, and then we had like the Potafu arc, Goku Black. Like I said, there's so many instances where it just felt like meh, you know what I'm saying? But at the same time, it is sad to see it go. But I do have faith that this is probably what they're trying to do. They really want to refocus our attention towards the movie, so that way they could do things right if they decide to bring it back. And that way we know they could really finish telling Goku and Vegeta's story as well properly. They could finish it and then not really have to worry about any negative feedback or anything biting them in the ass or anything. Because let's say, oh, we contradicted ourselves by saying this, but yet we did this over here. So enough is enough. And I think if people could understand and accept this, then I think a lot of people would be surprisingly for the idea of Dragon Ball Super ending now. So that way we could hopefully, focus on bigger and better things going into the future, hopefully.
My final question to you is, a lot of people have brought this up. Do you think Dragon Ball Super kind of ran out of ideas? For me personally, I don't think so, because with all the content we have, with the exempt universes, with Ultra Instinct having to be introduced, with so many things, the power scaling having to be all over the place, do you think that they've reached a point to where they kind of wrote themselves in a corner and they pretty much ran out of ideas with nothing left? Because we spoke about this ironically many times on the channel, on my channel, on your channel. It's like, where do we go after this? A lot of people have spoken about evil angels, evil Zeno, theories, so many theories, man. And for it to boil down to this, do you believe that they kind of wrote themselves in a corner with no way out, in the idea that there is, nothing left for them to even explain anymore? Or do you believe that there's still loads of content they have planned? It's just a matter of execution and timing and just prolonging it for the inevitable future. What do you think?
It might be kind of ironic, but the whole concept of something terrible happens, well, there you go.
This is it, yeah. Dragon Ball Super's over. Yeah, that's the terrible thing that happens.
The work of the gods ends here. Like, it's legitimately ending here, so there you go.
It's like Rhymestyle said, Jiren wishes for Dragon Ball Super to end.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. But I would say that ironically now we know what this alleged terrible thing is, and we know what the work of the gods ends here means legitimately now. No, but I don't think they definitely didn't run out of ideas. There's a lot of things they could have done with it. I just think, and I don't think they wrote themselves into a corner. I just think everything was starting to become a little bit more of a mess for them personally. Like I said, I don't know. I'm in no way, shape, or form, qualified to maybe even talk about what goes on behind the scenes. But from a fan's perspective, from the outside looking in, I would imagine, based on the way some of these episodes are written, you can tell that things may be a little bit out of whack. Which isn't really a bad thing, but if their intention is to really say, let's go back to the drawing board, let's just drop Dragon Ball for a bit, let's cover this anime, work on this anime, and if that anime turns out okay, then more power to it, that's fine. But at the same time, it's like you kind of have to revisit Dragon Ball in some way, shape, or form, because not only, I don't want to say that they owe it to us personally, but they kind of owe it to themselves to establish, because they've marketed Ultra Instinct, they've marketed all these concepts, now they're marketing a movie. only to just wrap it up like that and say, okay, bye. I personally don't think it's a good look for them. But it is a company, it's a business for them, and I just want to say right now, Dragon Ball Super is not ending because it did poorly. It's clear that it was performing very well. It was, to my knowledge, it was rating extremely high. To my knowledge, very popular.
It was,
and it's doing well. So they're not ending because Dragon Ball is like doing bad. It's not pulling in revenue. No, they're making money off of it. But it's just based on what I'm assuming, what I would do, like just thinking outside the box from like a normal American's marketing or business aspect. I would just do it that way personally. I would redirect everybody towards this movie. We're gonna hit the nail on the head here, and we're not done here. But we want to see how it goes, just like how they did with the Battle of Gods movie. And once Battle of Gods did well, they announced the series for Dragon Ball Super, and then you could tell that it wasn't a response. That's why they started the series with Battle of Gods. It wasn't anything new. You know what I'm saying? So.
Right.
Those are my thoughts on that, really. Am I okay with it? Not really, because now it's like you kind of have to readjust yourself as a fan. It's really unfortunate for fans because you really do look forward to hopping on YouTube or turning on Crunchyroll, watching the episode, then hopping on YouTube to hear what your favorite.
Just having a good time. Yeah.
Everybody talk, stuff like that. So now you don't have that, so you kind of have to look into other animes, especially if you guys are just you just watch Dragon Ball and that's it. I feel bad for those people. So I would really advise now you guys start looking into other things. Maybe My Hero Academia season 3 is coming out.
Attack on Titan.
A lot of Black Clover is still 15, 16, 17 episodes in. There's a lot of animes. If you guys haven't watched the Fate series, Shingeki no Bahamut, there's a lot of amazing animes. It's too long to list. Hunter x Hunter, if you guys haven't watched that. Anything. Just check it out, and it'll serve you. It'll hold you guys down until the movie comes, and then we could see what happens after it.
In the end, I don't think that this is going to be the official end of Dragon Ball, because to say the franchise is going to end is a bit ignorant, because the franchise is massive in and of itself, so they could easily, reignite Dragon Ball in the future with something else. In terms of the main TV show and what they want to do with the manga, in terms of the games, the action figures, the merchandise, it's never going to die out. And it's very interesting because people are starting to panic and saying, well, what do we do now? And it's very sad because I've grown to really enjoy Dragon Ball Super as a fan. Whether or not you guys want to crap on the anime or not, that's your opinion. You're entitled to that. You can't really speak on the behalf of everybody else. But for me, as a fan, I've enjoyed Super. There were lots of things that were really wonky about Super. The writing was a bit off. There were lots of unexplained questions. There were lots of inconsistencies. And I do believe that Super could have been much better in its direction with explaining things and just, determining indefinite power scaling guides as to how strong certain characters are in comparison to other characters. For example, Beerus and Vegeta and Blue Goku, while using Kaioken and Jiren and lots of other factors. But it's actually quite sad to see Dragon Ball Super go, but at the same time, it's like, how far can you push the show? How far can you allow things to grow after the universe survival arc, with literally the fate of every single universe, at stake here? It's very hard to even fathom. So post your comments down below, guys. What are your overall thoughts on the conclusion of Dragon Ball Super in March of 2018? Let me know your thoughts down below, guys. Thank you all so much for watching. If you guys are new to this channel, hit that subscribe button, guys. Turn on all notifications. Follow me at Twitter and Snapchat. Links will be located down below. In case some of you guys are wondering about Dragon Ball content, I will not stop doing Dragon Ball content on this channel. I've been doing it since 2012, way before Dragon Ball Super, and I'm going to continue to do it way after Dragon Ball Super. So I have lots of ideas and lots of, things planned for this foreseeable future. So thank you all so much for watching, guys. Check out Emosh's channel. I will leave a link to his down below, and we'll be seeing you all down in the comment section below, guys. Have a great day. Peace.